most people who get into business fail. And if you don't have that DNA, that hardware prior to starting your business, I don't know if this is for you.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and the wisdom of how they sold their first million.
However, the transition between corporate and having your own business is completely different because, when you guys, especially if you're an engineer and you have a corporate job, you guys get paid very good money. And that's it. It's 9 to 5. When you're on the weekend, you need to worry about anything. And if somebody comes to you and tell you, okay, you have to do this, maybe you can tell them, look, listen, this is not my job. And in corporate, this is okay. But when you're your own entrepreneur, your own business, the dynamic change. Everything is your job, and at the beginning, the first couple of years, it's gonna be a dynamic that probably Saturday and Sunday you will be working on the business, try to scale it. So tell us about this transition and what advice do you have for people in corporate that want to do the transition to the entrepreneurial world, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the corporate world and you aren't worried about your job on the weekend, you either don't have a high enough position, and you need to probably mess it up and get yourself higher level so you can get
That's
experience, or this isn't for you. Like I think that most people who get into business fail. And if you don't have that DNA, that hardware prior to starting your business, I don't know if this is for you, right? You may just be one of these people that just can't get a good job and just aren't really good, aren't really a good employee, period. So maybe just food for some thought right there. I think that, once you are able to build a business, even a starting one, proof of concept, or some people call this MVP product, you're starting to really hone in on who that avatar is, and then you go from there. But a lot of that is just it's luck, right? You don't know if you're going to get past step 2, step 3, step 4, or even get started on step 1.
Yeah.
So I tell most people, will stay in your corporate job, especially if you make $50,000, $100,000 a year, because that's a decent amount of money coming in, and you can use that money to go buy little rental properties, which
yeah,
can
but
be
people want
business.
to have the fit the long calendar. They want to. I think that what they see the entrepreneurs life, right? Of course, when everything work out and if you want, you can set up a system. The whole business can run autopilot without you, but it's a process that goes onto that end. And I think that everybody only listen in the news the end result are and what is the outcome without knowing that in order to receive that outcome, there is a process that goes into place and is intense, correct? And you don't know if you're gonna win on the other side.
Yeah, I guess you don't. Yeah, you're right there. You don't know if you have what it takes unless you play the game, of course. But I mean, call me more conservative, right? I mean, that's what real estate investors are. Real estate is probably the easiest business to get into, right? You're renting out boxes. It's a proven system. The problem with real estate
everybody
is
understand it because you have a house, and everybody understand that you live in the house, that you pay rent or you pay mortgage. So it's something that everybody understands.
Right. And because everybody understands, it is one of the most highly competitive businesses out there, where it's really hard to get alpha and beat your competitors because there's so many of them. And, quite honestly, there's not much to do in terms of improving the business plan, business system. So, this is why, I'll coach wealthier families, and a lot of them will put their second, third generation as the landlord position, because it's, what is there to collecting checks and paying the mortgage or paying the insurance bill once a year, right? Like, I mean, I'm kind of making a joke out of it, but it is pretty damn easy. Any idiot can do that. Any smart person's idiot kids can do that type of stuff. So that's kind of what real estate is. But if you're running an operational business, you're going to need to have a good head on your shoulders. I'm not saying you need to have a high IQ, but you're going to need some good business acumen and problem solving
Mhm.
skills, and you're going to need the entrepreneur hardware of sticking to it.
This is my question. Like 1 out of 5 entrepreneurs that attend to this podcast on Stop About 5 Step How to Make Your First Million, they are property millionaires. So why do you think that, which is actually proof that property at least is a good vehicle to become wealthy, because it's reflecting the overall statistics of this podcast. So, but in your view, why do you think that such a large proportion? And by the way, the other 1 out of 5 that show up, and they are from the tech industry. So why do you think that property and tech are at least the most popular vehicles to build wealth, or more people are building wealth using those vehicles versus the other vehicles? Can you tell us what is good and what is not that good, and what do you think about this?
I think so many of your audience are real estate investors because everybody can do it. Again, the barrier to entry from a skill level is probably the lowest within real estate. From a capital intensive point, you need it's probably the most restrictive, right? You typically need at least 20% down payment to buy a property and then to start a business. Sometimes you just need 5, 10 grand to start a business. To buy a house for 100 grand, which is a smaller one, you're going to need $25,000 ready to go. So from that point, that's the barrier to entry, I think.
In tech?
Tech, I think the tech is a sexy thing. It has, you don't need to really show income, expenses, revenue in those types of things. A lot of times you're just going off of the idea, the concept. Tech scales very nicely, obviously, right? I mean, you're thinking software, you can duplicate that thing pretty
Very
easily.
easy to scale, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a SaaS product these days, but any type of tech, tech is scalable. So the equity multipliers are pretty much limitless from there. That said, you have a lot of people who pile into that because of the allure of all those multipliers.
A lot of competition,
And
right?
yeah. But typically if you go on AppSumo, you'll see the same software 20, 30 times there, right? It's
Which one is your
competition is
favorite,
very.
tech or property?
What's that?
Which one is your favorite vehicle, tech, property?
I guess from my perspective, and I'm not giving any financial advice, but the way I look at it is that you have different sectors or different portions of your portfolio. Different, like for example, for a lot of real estate investors, you have a lot of more safer investments. This is once your net worth goes over several million. This is what I talk about in my book, The Wealth Elevator, right? Like when you're starting out, you have to concentrate in more asymmetric type of investments. Asymmetric meaning high risk, high reward, right? That's how you start a fire with nothing. But once your net worth crests over a million, 3, 4, or 5 million, the behavior and portfolio changes quite a bit. Where most people would probably argue, or everybody's all over the place, right? So I'm speaking in generalities, but for the most part, the higher net worth grows, the more conservative your portfolio gets, right? Like, why keep playing the game? Why send your star player out there just to get injured when you're up by 30, 40 points and it's the game is locked in? So tech is seen as more of an investment, especially angel investing. Like the vast majority, I don't know what the statistic is, but like 80 to 90 something percent of investments go to zero in that world. Of course, you have the opportunity to 50x, 100x plus the winners, but that's very, very rare. But you'll start to the best thing I can share is high net worth families. Tiger 21 is a mastermind group that cater to a lot of very high net worth families, 50, $100 million of investable assets. When you look at their portfolio, they have maybe 2%, 10% of their investments in very extremely risky things. The vast majority of what they have are in very conservative things, T-bills, bonds, real estate, things like that. And they sort of employ a barbell approach to their portfolio where it's weighted on the other ends and, it's kind of still balanced the way they see it. But that would be, a long-winded answer to your question. I mean, I like both, right? But they serve different purposes.
Exactly. And the risk is different. So, Lane, being a good entrepreneur, that doesn't mean that you become a good investor. And we have a lot of stories in this podcast that good entrepreneurs very quickly they develop that skill, so they know how to develop product and they sell it and they're making money. Now, making money is one part of the equation. Keeping it is the other part. And here in this podcast, entrepreneurs again and again, they exit the company, they make few millions because they don't know how to invest. Because it's completely different ball game. Sometimes they give it to a financial advisor to look after, and they have been checked here that after a year that when they come back, a lot of zeros are missing, and they had to take the situation by themselves to take control of the finance and start to learn how to invest themselves, or at least to have more idea what is happening. And again, it's a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. Until finally, they succeed on that one. So tell us about your journey. When do you realize that it was two parts of the equation? One is creating the business and making money, but it was a second part which is keeping the money and make this money work for you, which is a totally different book game, totally different skill, totally different way of thinking. And if you don't let this part, you cannot keep the money. You can make us. We have people that make millions, lose it, millions, lose it, millions, lose it. Okay, clearly there is no problem in the ability for that entrepreneur to create money, but there is a challenge on the second part, which is keeping it.
Yeah, I think that the thing is, like, when you look at real estate investing, you buy one property, like I did back in 2009, you put a tenant in there, and you keep it siloed from everything else, right? I mean, not to give legal advice, but you throw it into LLC and it's all siloed from a legal standpoint, but also from a fiscal standpoint, right? All the expenses, maintenance, repairs for that asset is paid for by that property. Now, yeah, sometimes, when I had 11 rental properties back in 2015, 16, I would say a few of them lost money every year. Different ones, of course, right? But it got propped up by the entire portfolio. So from a cash standpoint,
it happened to me also. That happened to me also in London.
Yeah, I mean, when they're commingled like that, that's what a portfolio is supposed to do, right? The winners offset the losers, but to totality, you're making money. Now, I think where things, when we kind of start to now buy apartments, right, we have to keep everything segregated, right? Because you get different investors and different deals. You can't really commingle assets, but you still have, company overhead, right? The administrative side that we kind of take care of. I think that's where you can, you start to hire people who are better than yourself in some of these roles, like investor relations. Every business is different, right? This is when you're starting to hire the staff. This is a very difficult part for new entrepreneurs when you start to build that rung of management. When you're a solopreneur, just you, maybe you have an EA, another person that's only at like a two-rung org chart. When you start to get that third rung, that's when things really start to expand. Mm-hmm. It's a necessary growing pain to go through.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.